Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
During the week before the race, a very important invention came to be, and that invention was the racing simulator. Let's see what this will do. Now onto the pre-race, where Trevor Turnrev will be out this race because of a practice crash caused by Nick Charger. Why? But he will be suspended this race because of what he did. And also, Slate Granger and Mike Splatloper will get into a tire fight, and then both will be suspended this race for getting into a tire fight. And Will Draftrev will be suspended for 10 races because he used illegal fuel and street tires. Why did you do that, Will Draftrev? Now onto the starting grid, where Bobby Swift will start at pole position with Martin Carrix Jr. to his outside. Row 2 has Tony Gassert, who did really well in qualifying, and Cal Weathers to his outside. Row 3 has Speedy Comet, hopefully he doesn't crash, and Lightning McQueen, the defending Piston Cup champion. Row 4 has Kyle Carson and Jimmy Cables to his outside. I wonder how they'll do this race. Now on to Row 5, where Rex Revler is hoping to sing the Gasket song again, and Brick Yardley to his outside. Row 6 has Doug Throttleman the jumper, and Carl Clutchin to his outside. Now onto Row 7, where Marcus Kranksler makes a return to the track after failing to qualify twice, and Todd Marcus to his outside. Row 8 has James Garrison and his teammate Jack DePost to his outside. Row 9 has two more Garrison Motorsports racers. Both of them are number 28s, Jamarcus Kakart and Phil Tankson. Row 10 has another set of Garrison Motorsports racers, Sebastian Silva and Billy Carjoy. And Row 11 has yet another two Garrison Motorsports racers, Pitbull Speed Racer and Chip Gearings. Row 12 has Ralph Carlo and Lane Locke, who impressed during qualifying this race. Row 13 has Bruce Miller and Brian Sparks, who are actually both doing pretty well this season. Row 14 has Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Murray Clutchburn to his outside. Now on to Row 15, where what's Kevin Harvick doing back here? And how is he starting alongside Dirksen Agostino? Row 16 has Bobby Rotesta and Cal Williams to his outside. Now on to Row 17, where TG Castlenut and Reb Meeker will both start. I wonder how they'll do this race. Row 18 has Matthew Overdrive and David Gillicar making his first start this season. I wonder how he'll do this race. Row 19 has Arthur Carstro, who's making a comeback after failing to qualify last week, and Paunchy Wipeout. Row 20 has Rev Rodages and Ryan Revster making his first start this season. Now onto Row 21, where Ernie Gearson will be hoping to not have an engine failure, and Floyd Mulvihill will start to his outside. And starting in 43rd is Tommy Highbanks, who somehow beat Ricky Axel and these 9 other racers to qualify for this race. Now to the race, where Bobby Swift will only be in the lead on the first lap before he'd lose the lead to Martin Carrix Jr., who would lead until lap 10 before he'd lose the lead to Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen would lead for 31 laps until lap 41, where Cal Weathers would take the lead. He would lead for 6 laps before James Garrison would take the lead for himself. He would lead for 2 laps before losing the lead to Bobby Swift, who would lead until lap 52. But on that lap, Ernie Gearson would be out because he spun out. I feel bad for him. Reb Meeker would take the lead after the restart, but soon after, on lap 53, Bobby Swift would retake the lead. As the pit stops were done, he would lead until lap 61. Dale Earnhardt Jr. would be out on lap 61 because of engine failure. Doug Throttleman would jump over Lightning McQueen at the same time as well. And Apple would say this. I wonder how they're getting that done though. Doug Throttleman would take the lead on lap 62. And Bobby Swift would take the lead soon after, leading all the way until lap 94, where Kyle Carson would take the lead. And then he would lose the lead later that lap to Speedy Comet. Speedy Comet would lead for 5 laps before he'd lose the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would lead over lap 100, but on lap 103, Bobby Swift would take the lead from Lightning McQueen. He would lead until lap 117, when Brick Yardley would take the lead for the first time this race. He would lead until lap 149, but Chip Gearings would be 23rd as of lap 149, when he accidentally wrecks Paunchy Wipeout, David Gillicar, and himself. I feel bad for all 3 racers involved. Brick Yardley would take the lead on lap 150 after the restart, but on lap 152, Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 196. Meanwhile, Speedy Comet would be 7th as of lap 188, where he accidentally wrecks Tommy Highbanks, Dirksen D'Agostino, Floyd Mulvihill, Brian Sparks, Marcus Cranksler, and himself. I feel bad for everyone involved in the crash. Bobby Swift would take the lead on lap 196 and lead until lap 218, where Cal Weathers would take the lead. Cal Weathers would lead until lap 226 before Todd Marcus would take the lead. He would lead for 2 laps before losing the lead to Brick Yardley, who would lead until lap 235 before he would lose the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would only lead for 1.5 laps before Dodd Throttleman would somehow jump over Lightning McQueen on lap 236 and then take the lead. He would lead until lap 239 before Lightning McQueen would retake his lead, leading all the way until lap 242, where James Garrison would take the lead off of pit cycles. Then he went to go pit. This would allow Carl Clutchin to take the lead, and he would lead the field into lap 243, the lap where Jimmy Cables would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 260, where Todd Marcus would retake the lead, and then lead until lap 275, where Bobby Swift would take the lead once again. He would lead for 5 laps before Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again, leading until lap 284, where Cal Weathers would take the lead. Cal Weathers would lead for 9 laps, but then Dodd Throttleman would jump over other cars on these laps. Lightning McQueen would take the lead on lap 293, and then Dodd Throttleman would jump over other cars on these laps, but on lap 328, Brick Yardley would take the lead. He would lead until lap 333, where Bobby Swift would retake the lead. He would lead for 2 more laps before Brick Yardley would retake the lead. He would lead until lap 338, where he'd lose the lead to Kyle Carson, who would lead until lap 341, but then Todd Marcus would take the lead off of pit cycles. He would lose the lead after the pit stops would be done, as Carl Clutchin would take the lead once again, leading until lap 347, where Phil Tankson would take the lead for himself, leading for 2 laps before Brick Yardley would retake the lead. He would lead until lap 352, but then Bobby Swift would take the lead once again and lead all the way until lap 398, where Todd Marcus would take the lead. Todd Marcus would lead the final 2 laps to win the 2016 Michigan 400, getting a shock win. Everybody thought that Bobby Swift, Cal Weathers, or Lightning McQueen would win this race, but instead, it is Todd Marcus claiming his 4th career victory at the end of this race. Brick Yardley would finish 2nd this race, Kyle Carson would finish 3rd, Rex Revler 4th, Kevin Carvick 5th, Bobby Swift 6th, Tony Gasworth 7th, Jimmy Cables 8th, Phil Tankson 9th, and rounding out the top 10, Cal Weathers. Rev Rodages is the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 32nd this race. Rev Rodages will finish on the lead lap once again. I already went over the top 10. Todd Marcus's win came as a real shock, but who misses out on the top 10? Reb Meeker misses out on the top 10. Last week's winner. Martin Carrick Jr. finished 12th, James Garrison 14th, Jamarcus Capehart 14th, and rounding out the top 15 is Jack DePost. Lightning McQueen somehow finishes outside the top 15, only barely ahead of Maury Clutchburn in 17th. Ralph Carlo, Carl Clutchin, and TG Castlenut round out the top 20, and Billy Carjoy will earn 100 points this race. The jumper Doug Throttleman unfortunately finishes all the way back in 22nd. Sebastian Silva, Pitbull Speed Racer, and Arthur Castro round out the top 25 with Bobby Road Testa, Cal Williams, Bruce Miller, Ryan Revster somehow, and Lane Locke rounding out the top 30. Matthew Overdrive, Apples Racer underwhelms and finishes 31st. Of course, I mentioned Rev Rodages, but unfortunately, Tommy Highbanks, Dirksen D'Agostino, Floyd Mulvihill, Brian Sparks, Marcus Cranksler, Speedy Comet, Paunchy Wipeout, David Gillicar, Chip Gearings, and Ernie Gearson were unable to finish this race on the lead lap. Now here is the top 20 in points, with Lightning McQueen still being out in front, but with Cal Weathers and Bobby Swift not too far behind. Brick Yardley and Jimmy Cables round out the top 5, as they have been for most of the season. Martin Carricks Jr., Phil Tankson, James Garrison, and Jack DePost round out the top 10. Carl Clutchin is somehow in a position to compete for the top 10. Dale Earnhardt Jr. falls to 12th in points. Reb Meeker, last week's winner, is 13th in points, followed by Doug Throttleman, the jumper, in 14th, and TG Castlenut rounding out the top 15. Kyle Carson in 16th, somehow Ricky Axel in 17th, as he failed to qualify for this race. But Jamarcus Capehart is right behind him and will pass him in points if the opportunity presents itself. Maury Clutchburn and Rex Revler round out the top 20, with Billy Carjoy 48 points behind in 21st.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Finally, the second race video of the 2024 Advent Calendar released. The 15th race of 2016. You just saw the race, and you'll probably be wondering, when will the 16th race be out? Well, the video covering that race will be coming out soon enough. And the last 2 videos before Christmas are already in production. So, if you see in the description, I'm not asking for video requests anymore. Until, of course, next year's Advent Calendar. As the 2024 Advent Calendar is still ongoing, stay tuned for a new video coming out tomorrow. For over 1,000 days, Ukraine has had to stand up to a big bully. That big bully is Vladimir Putin, who unfortunately began the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, an unjustified war that has been going on for almost 3 years. The Ukrainian people just wanted to live in peace and have freedom, but this common dream was ruined by that tyrant and bully. Currently, Vladimir Putin's tyranny rules around 1/5 of Ukraine's land, including Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson Oblasts. But Vladimir Putin doesn't have everything going his way, as Ukraine controls parts of Russia's Kursk Oblast. Despite these territorial gains, every day it gets harder for Ukraine to win the war because of dwindling supplies, both in terms of soldiers and equipment. We here at the Cable It's Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their struggle against Vladimir Putin's tyranny, and do not like that he is being a big bully. And also recognize Ukraine's true borders as shown by this map, which includes all of the territory that Vladimir Putin has illegal control over. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava, Nechai Shvitsia Daroretsia, Ukraini Permoha. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.